20 years of inspiration.
This is Newsroom. Hello and welcome from a windy and cold Johannesburg here in South Africa. My name is Ivan Jansen. The show is live. It's broadcast from our studios in Auckland Park. We're also streaming live on YouTube right now with the entire show available on demand on our YouTube channel. Now today we are live in the Northern Cape, Windsorton in particular, where the Blue Scorpions and the police are raiding a man for illegally obstructing the flow of the Vaal River. It's going to be another riveting day on the parliamentary channel with a debate that's expected to raise temperatures there once again. We'll be live to Parliament shortly. When is TB Joshua coming to South Africa? Well, that is the question that you've been asking on social media. Today we'll ask the church's representatives here in South Africa that question. We'll try and Skype with Dr. Mats Gilbert in Norway after his banning from Gaza by Israel recently. Then we close with a group who's going to climb Kilimanjaro for a good cause. That should be interesting to close. But first, the day's news with Katrine Milan.
Well, hello and welcome to Newsroom. I'm Katrine Milan, and let's just take a look at those top stories this morning. Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa will meet the leaders of political parties represented in Parliament in Cape Town today. They are expected to discuss the chaos that erupted in the National Assembly last week when Speaker Baleka Mbete tried to stop the opposition from delaying the adoption of a report absolving President Jacob Zuma of responsibility in the Nkandla saga.
We are hopeful that those members of Parliament who have engaged in this undesirable conduct will have had some time to reflect on their ways, and that the result of the engagement between the leader of government business as well as the leaders of various political parties will yield some sanity.
Now, today's meeting with the Deputy President is scheduled to take place shortly before the House sits to consider the fate of the 20 EFF MPs found guilty of misconduct. The Power and Privileges Committee found them guilty after they interrupted President Jacob Zuma's response to Nkandla in August. The committee will seek final approval from the National Assembly to implement sanctions against the MPs. The proposed sanctions range from losing a month's salary to a suspension from Parliament for a period of 30 days. Eskom says its system will remain tight over the evening peaks for the next few days. This due to the continuing wet and cloudy weather conditions forecast for the next few days, as well as the loss of additional units at some power stations as a result of technical faults. Eskom says the Majuba power station is facing wet coal challenges, with some of the coal handling taking place out in the open. Eskom implemented load shedding earlier this month after one of its silos at the power station collapsed. A British court is due to announce its sentence today on Tanya Clarence, the South African mother who suffocated 3 of her children at the family's southwest London home before trying to take her own life. Clarence appeared at the Old Bailey on Friday for a sentencing hearing, having previously admitted responsibility for the deaths. The 3 toddlers all suffered from a rare muscular disorder. And Kenyan women have marched in Nairobi to demand an end to sexual harassment on the basis of their dressing. The protests follow an incident last week in which a woman dressed in a miniskirt was stripped by rowdy touts on allegations that she was indecently dressed. The women have been leading a social media debate demanding the perpetrators be brought to book under hashtag #MyDressMyChoice. Now remember, all those top stories and more are available on our Newsroom Facebook page. You can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Eben, over to you.
Thank you, Katrine. Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa is right now meeting behind closed doors with the leaders of opposition parties in Parliament. The meeting follows chaotic incidents in the National Assembly recently, which resulted in the sitting of the House being suspended. Meanwhile, the fate of the 20 EFF MPs who've been found guilty of misconduct will also be dealt with in Parliament today. The Powers and Privileges Committee found them guilty after they interrupted President Jacob Zuma's response to the Nkandla saga in August this year. The committee will seek final approval from the National Assembly to implement sanctions against the MPs. The proposed sanctions ranged from losing a month's salary to a suspension from Parliament for a period of 30 days. An interesting day ahead in Parliament. Let's cross to Cape Town, to Parliament, where our parliamentary reporter, Lucanio Galata, is standing by with an update. Good morning, Lucanio.
Eben, good morning.
Lucanio, it's almost as if the parliamentary channel is preferred viewing these days. It looks like we're going to have another heated day in Parliament. Just give us your views and expectations of today.
Yes, and when you think about it, the Fifth Democratic Parliament isn't even 6 months old yet, and this is, what we've been experiencing over the last 5 months since I think the Parliament was inaugurated sometime in June this year. Well, Eben, I've got a little bit of bad news to report to you. When we came in this morning and we looked at the order paper, which basically decides the order of business to which the National Assembly will hold itself to, we saw that the matter of the EFF discussion and the discussion of the report by the Powers and Privileges Committee was not on the order paper. It threw us back a little bit because, I mean, as early as yesterday, we understood that the matter of the Powers and Privileges Committee will be debated in the House today. But unfortunately, it's not on the order paper. So it hangs in the balance a bit as to whether or not the discussion or the debate will take place. Maybe Parliament decided, well, let us not put it on, and then it's something that will appear in the National Assembly. But we don't believe that that's the case. And we still need to go and find out as to exactly or what's happening if the matter if the matter won't be debated. If it isn't debated today, however, we do believe that it's likely to be debated on Thursday. So we're not exactly sure whether or not it is coming on today. Eben.
It will be a very heated debate, no less, if it happens today or Thursday. But the EFF, they remain adamant, though, that they won't accept any sanction against their members. This sets a dangerous precedent for Parliament. And just to add on, do they have any leg to stand on if they go to court with this?
Eben, it's a bit tricky. I think the EFF, ever since they've come to Parliament, they've always been saying that, look, they are here for a revolution. They are here to do things slightly differently as to what things have been done over the last 20 years. So, I mean, even when we raise the issue of the medical aid, that comes top of mind immediately. When the EFF MP said, look, you can't force us to accept or to become members of your medical aid because we live in a democracy and we need the choice. Also, in this case, the EFF is saying, look, we're not going to do things as you want us to do those things. We're not sure if they do have a leg to stand on if they do go to court. Remember, about 2 years ago, Judge Dennis Davis made a ruling when he was dealing with the issue that was brought to court by the Democratic Alliance at the time, when he was saying that the courts cannot tell Parliament how to run its business. So I think if the EFF were to take this matter to court, the courts will basically just tell them that, look, Parliament is a separate arm of government, and we as the courts cannot impose on them on how to run their business. It remains to be seen, however, how the courts will decide if the EFF does go that route, but we don't believe that that the court will step in and try to tread on Parliament's waters. Eben.
Lucanio, let's talk about the DA quickly, because they're very interesting for me in this matter. During election month, they were talking about we would never work with the EFF. We are too far apart. We are polar opposites in the political spectrum. Now I see DA politicians standing in Parliament pointing fingers. You must go, behaving in an unruly manner that we've never seen from them. Are they being infected by the EFF, and would they admit to this?
Eben, well, you know the saying that a week is a long time in politics.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the case what we've seen here. the way that we understand it as the media was that what happened on the 21st of August, it was the EFF basically deciding that it was no longer going to play according to the rules. And that put the DA, which is the official opposition, at a bit, of the back foot. They now had to decide how they are going to come out, how they are going to play the game, or risk being taken over by the EFF. So, they were caught between a rock and a very hard place. And then they've decided, well, this is the strategy. The EFF was able to gain a lot of mileage out of their actions on the 21st of August. And that's why we've seen the Democratic Alliance, to some extent, adopting the same strategy that the EFF took on that day in August. However, when we spoke to the National Assembly Speaker, Baleka Mbete, last week Friday, she said that they weren't sure yet whether or not they were going to take action against some of the DA members that had obviously been very disruptive and disobeying some of the Speaker's rulings on Thursday. We do expect there to be action from Parliament, though, or at least from the National Assembly, on the Democratic Alliance's behavior in the House last week. Whether or not it's going to go the same route of going to the Powers and Privileges Committee for these members to then be investigated, and then the Powers and Privileges Committee to find them guilty or not, and then make certain recommendations, as we do expect them to make of the EFF. We don't know if it will go according to that route, but yes, sure, the DA has now taken a very similar path to the EFF. And we don't know where this will end. I mean, when we look at it, say, maybe in 2-3 years' time of this fifth parliament, whether or not the DA and the EFF will continue to grow even closer together, we don't know. It's just one of those things which makes it very interesting for us as the media, where, we're watching this space. Eben.
The red and blue will go quite nicely together on a new logo. But anyhow, let's talk about the business before Parliament today. We've got this meeting going on right now with the Deputy President, Cyril Ramaphosa, with apparently opposition party leaders in Parliament. Just tell us, what hat is the Deputy President wearing today in order to sort of clear up what this meeting is about? And can you speculate, is this a kind of an olive branch to try and get more normality in Parliament?
Look, he's meeting with the leaders of the opposition parties, obviously in his capacity as Deputy President and also as the leader of government business. What we understand is that the opposition party leaders are going there to make certain demands very, very clear to Deputy President Ramaphosa. They want the National Assembly Speaker, Baleka Mbete. They want her gone. They're not mincing their words on that. And they obviously... The ACDP, for instance, wanted to insist on the discussion of how could police be called into the National Assembly chamber. That chamber is supposed to be sacrosanct. It's supposed to be, a place where members of Parliament are safeguarded by parliamentary privilege, and they are allowed to, express themselves freely. And so those two matters are definitely on the table. And the Deputy President, it will be quite interesting to see how he resolves the matter, because he's supposed to answer questions in the National Assembly tomorrow. So based on how this meeting goes this morning, tomorrow's a question and answer session in the National Assembly is likely to be very interesting. If the meeting goes well and the Deputy President manages to persuade the leaders of the opposition parties to tone down a little bit, to calm down, and manages to and tells them that government does have their best interest at heart, and that President Jacob Zuma, for instance, will be in the National Assembly to come and answer their questions, then I'm sure the leaders of the opposition parties will take a much softer stance tomorrow when he is here. If, however, things don't go well at all in this morning's meeting, we can expect some fireworks in the National Assembly tomorrow when Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa comes to answer oral questions in the National Assembly. Eben.
The country will be watching with their eyes glued to the parliamentary channel again. That's what people are saying on all the social media feeds. Look, Kanyo, thank you for that update. Of course, our parliamentary reporter, Lucanio Kalata, keeping us updated as to what's going on in Parliament. I can tell you there's been lots and lots going on in Parliament, lots of action on the parliamentary channel. Now, we move on, though. The bodies of 74 South Africans killed in the Nigeria church collapse have finally arrived in South Africa just over 2 months after the incident. The focus now shifts to the 74 families who must now make final arrangements to bury the remains of their loved ones and then bring closure to this long and painful experience. 26 other South Africans injured were repatriated a month ago. 20 of them had since been discharged from hospitals and reunited with their families. For the other 11 families, it's still a long and agonizing wait as the remaining bodies still have to go through the process of identification. A total of 116 people died on September 12 when the guest house belonging to the Synagogue Church of All Nations in Lagos, headed by preacher TB Joshua, collapsed. The tragedy will remain in the minds of South Africans for a lifetime, as there are still many questions that need to be answered. Well, we are joined in studio today by the South African spokesperson of the Synagogue Church of All Nations, Mr. Kirsten Nematandani. Very good morning to you, sir. Thank you once again for joining us.
Good morning to you and to your viewers out there.
I want to ask you first up, so just the process that you guys as the church and the families will now be going through, move on until the deceased are laid to rest, and if you can maybe tell us what role the church will play in all of this.
Thank you very much once again. I think it's befitting at this point in time on behalf of Emmanuel TV partners and of course the Synagogue Church of All Nations and the man of God himself to express our deepest message of sympathies and condolences to the bereaved families. And we want to say to them, the man of God had made a very serious commitment to say he is going to walk this difficult road with them up to the end of it. And as we talk now, obviously, with the remains of the others who haven't come back, the commitment is he is going to be out there 24/7 to ensure that that process is fast-tracked up to the end. And of course, government also made a very serious commitment, which we should really, really appreciate that we have a caring government. You just asked as to what then from now. I must say at this point in time, the Synagogue Church of All Nations has dispatched teams throughout the country to go once again to continue to give spiritual support, emotional support, console families. As you understand at this point in time, this is now again that difficult time to really come to face with the reality when their loved ones are back home. And I must also indicate that thanks to the various provincial governments that are playing such a major role, we were informed already that already 3 memorial services were held in KZN, Polokwane, Limpopo, and of course, if my memory serves me well, that also include Mpumalanga. That tells that indeed this has been a disaster for this country, a country in mourning and working together. And we want to appreciate this great support from the nation that is saying this belongs to us and we are going to be out there to support the families. The church continues to be on the ground, and in most cases, they are part of the funeral ceremonies that are taking place and giving the continuous spiritual support.
I want to ask you a question that our viewers have been asking us on social media and a question that's been asked by many others. A month ago, TB Joshua failed to appear before an inquest to answer questions about the tragedy in Nigeria. He's not made an appearance with the repatriation of bodies to South Africa. When are we going to see TB Joshua coming to South Africa?
Thank you very much for that question. I think this is one question that we need to put record straight. The man of God did not appear for the inquest because he was not subpoenaed. In terms of the Nigerian laws, you have to personally receive that subpoena. And as always, he's been a humble servant of the Lord and, of course, a servant of government because he works with the people. As you know, church will always be submissive to the ruling government. And once subpoenaed, he'll be out there. The question of saying when will he be, why was he not here? As you know, he's the chief mourner. Not only South Africans passed on in that stage. So the entire bodies belonging to various countries were out there. Surely it would have resulted with, misunderstanding with other countries. Why did he go to this country, not that country? It's a principle of first things first. Surely after the burial, the man of God has indicated that he'll be out there to meet families because he believes a relationship has been built between the church and those families.
Will he then at some point visit the countries of the bereaved, including South Africa?
Definitely, that's a very serious commitment. In fact, we understand that there are even plans afoot to ensure that on a monthly basis, he may be in this country to give continuously support those families. And not only those families, and many other churchgoers will then have an opportunity of really meeting the man of God. Look, he continues to send his love and compassion to the various families. And he has made it very clear, this is on top of his agenda, nothing else. He prays day and night to ensure that this should come to an end.
You're talking about the families and you're talking about assistance during this time of bereavement that they're suffering. We also hear reports of financial contributions having been made to the families of the deceased. Can you give us an idea what kind of financial assistance the church have been giving to the families of or the bereaved families rather?
Certainly, from the word go, immediately this incident happened, the teams were sent down from Lagos to go and meet families, did the need analysis in terms of various families. As you know, some families lost their breadwinners. In such cases, obviously the support would be different in the sense that life had to continue. The key issue here is life should never be worse off than they were before. In some cases, issues of school fees and, of course, fees adversities, rental, etc., whatever the family would put in as a need, the man of God had made sure that those needs are met because it was critical that their life continue as expected.
We are now a little bit over 2 months on from the tragedy. Has the church changed its position on how this tragedy occurred? And if I may ask, what is the official position right now of the church with regards to what caused this horrible tragedy?
Look, from the onset, the church's official position is that was a controlled demolition. The fortunate part of it is there's an inquest going on, and obviously the truth will then come out from that process, and all of us will begin to know the reality. The fact is that structure came down within seconds, and it can never happen if it's a structural defect.
Let's move on to those bodies of South Africans that's still in Nigeria. Can you give us the reasoning why there are, I think it's about 11 bodies that have not been returned? Can you give us a reason why they're still there, and also maybe an update on when they're expected to return home?
Thank you very much. Once again, this is a time that we should thank our government, in particular the president, for having sent a team out there under Minister Hadebe to fast-track the process. This is a process whereby our government had certainly gone in and really meet the Nigerian counterpart to say, please fast-track this process. The understanding is this has to do with clear identification. You've got to understand that the Nigerian authorities have their way of running the identification, most probably different from ours. And that is the only thing that is holding back the remains of our loved ones. And we trust that with government's commitment, we had the Deputy President saying they are not going to rest until that is done. And the same applies to the man of God. He said he is not going to sleep, neither to rest until that is done. And that is happening.
Tell us about the effect that this tragedy has had on the day-to-day operations of the Synagogue Church of All Nations.
Look, I think the effect was clear in the sense that the focus from the man of God and for all the evangelists there was families first, meaning the focus had to shift in supporting the families. The prayers and energies were focused on doing that because those lives remained very, very important for them. Of course, the church continues every Sunday because that was very essential to try and ensure that, God's divine powers continue to give strength to those families. But very interesting, as we are talking now, there are so many people wanting to go back out there. We just heard that over 8,000 have been inquiring as to how could we go back. In fact, including those survivors, they're anxiously waiting to go out there, but the understanding is first things first. Let's go past this process so that when we have gone past it, we are able to continue with our lives. And of course, this tragedy will be a tragedy that will never be forgotten in the church's understanding. Those that passed on as the martyrs in the kingdom of God. And we want to say to the family, if they could find solace in that understanding that the loved ones passed in the house of the Lord.
I thank you for joining us today. That's the South African spokesperson of the Synagogue Church of All Nations, Mr. Kirsten Nematandana, joining us live here today on Newsroom. Thank you once again for joining us. Let's have a look at some of your views. What are you talking about on Twitter, at SABC Newsroom? That's where we interact with you. Ms. Tami says, I hope for a harsh sanction for the unruly EFF MPs. Of course, yes, that debate should be in Parliament today. Bisisiwe says it's funny how the EFF MPs got into trouble for interrupting Parliament, but the other opposition parties will get a talk to what they did. Unfortunately, precedent has been set. Mojalefa says, nothing is said about the successful EFF provincial people's assemblies in Mpumalanga, Gauteng province, but quick to criticize the unfortunate Northern Cape fiasco. Mojalefa, they were throwing bricks and hacking each other with machetes. We have to talk about that, unfortunately, my friend. Then WSM says, in last week's fracas, 5 DA MPs were hurt shielding an EFF MP from forcible police eviction. So where were the parade EFF warrior colleagues? In Parliament, there are only 20-odd of them, unfortunately, so it's a lot more difficult to stand up and face yourself if you are in the minority. Let's take a look now at the front pages of the world. In the United Kingdom, that's where we'll start. The Daily Mirror is reporting that bird flu is back. This after a case of the avian flu was confirmed at a British duck breeding farm this week. Also in the UK, The Times looking at an unprecedented global investigation currently underway for the reported Islamic death squad who took part in the mass slaughter of Syrian officers. And then in Australia, The Australian is looking at the signing of a free trade agreement by China. And there you see China's president shaking hands with Tony Abbott after the signing of that agreement. Now, before we go to a short commercial break, let's have a look at what's some of the events happening across the country today. You are watching Newsroom. We'll be back after a short little break.
Our new waterproof smartphone takes superior photos even in low light. Has PlayStation 4 remote play and up to 2 days battery life. Don't settle for good. Demand great. The new Sony Xperia Z3 series.
Thanks, Mom. Have fun. You too.
SABC, sharing 20 years of inspiration.
You can't have a gut feeling about other people's gut feeling.
Ngaba has continued the tradition of passing stories onto the next generation using a platform that offers stories to a far more greater audience.
Zombie no go unless you tell them to go.
This is what the audiences all over the world knew Fela Kuti for.
Join Musa Mkhalipi on Afro Showbiz every Saturday at 19:30 CAT. SABC News, we've got Africa covered.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsroom here on SABC News. Now, we go to Kenya. Women, they are up in arms, marching in the streets of Nairobi, demanding an end to sexual harassment on the basis of their dressing. The protests follow an incident last week in which a woman dressed in a miniskirt was stripped by rowdy touts on allegations that she was indecently dressed. The women have been leading a social media debate demanding the perpetrators be brought to book under My Dress, My Choice. That's the hashtag if you want to have a look. Joining us now on the line is SABC's East Africa correspondent, Sarah Kimani. Good morning, Sarah. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Sarah, if you can just recap on this incident that happened there last week. Just put us in the picture how this happened.
Well, a lady alighted from a public service vehicle, or what we call matatu in Kenya, and she was going on out of the matatu and on to her business. But a young man catcalled, and when she refused to respond, she was apparently taken down by one of them, and they started yelling at her, and stripping, which was filmed by people there on their mobile phones, and was put on YouTube, and it became viral. And after that, there was said to be other counterattacks in Mombasa, following now, copycat stripping, following what had happened in Nairobi. And so this is when women realized that this is going to get out of hand, and now they started this campaign on social media. And only yesterday is when they got onto the streets to demand that the government takes action.
Just tell us about the perpetrators in this case, Sarah. Has anyone been brought to book yet?
There have been no arrests yet, although over the weekend, Vice President William Ruto confirmed and said that there will be arrests made. But the police say they are not able to go on with the case because the complainant, or the lady who was stripped, has not come forward to report the case. And also they say that they have not been able to identify the men caught on tape. And so they're asking Kenyans to come forward and, give the names. And they're also calling on the lady to come and record a statement, but she has not been forthcoming.
Now, the women have taken to, well, women in general, it seems, have taken it into their own hands. They've been in the street. What are women in Kenya demanding the authorities do? And if you can tell us what's been the authorities' response to this?
Well, they're calling on the government first to arrest the people caught on tape stripping this particular lady. But they're also saying that if this is not done, then they also risk, or any other woman risk, being harassed or, violated on the streets of Nairobi or anywhere else because no action was taken. So they want to be protected. They're asking that the government actually comes out and speaks out against this. The Vice President has done it. The Nairobi Senator has done it. But they feel that is not enough. They want these people arrested, put behind bars. And they're also asking that other cases of sexual assault in Kenya go through the whole process and, people brought to book, people jailed, so that the men who took part in these activities can see that indeed women have a right in the country and that they can be protected by the law.
Sarah, tell us about the historical context of this story. Does Kenya have a problem with this type of harassment and the infringement on women's rights in general? Is it frowned upon to wear a miniskirt if you go do your shopping, for instance, in town?
Well, it depends, and this is what now, when the debate is happening, a lot of people are justifying that the woman was dressed for the environment that she was in. She should not have been dressed that way. So it depends on where you are and where you're walking, and that's therefore people are saying, the women are saying, I should be able to wear my miniskirt, I should be able to wear my mini dress and walk anywhere in town. It doesn't matter that I must walk in the upmarket areas and feel safer, but I cannot walk in the same miniskirt in the in other areas. And the debate yesterday, actually, when we spoke to people who are not part of the demonstration, was saying that women must dress in an African way. And so the debate now turned into what is African, what is indecent, who is the moral police, who decides. And yeah, so that's how it is now. But you cannot quite say that women in Kenya have been harassed or are harassed depending on their dressing. It depends on where you are and at what time and who is there.
Sarah, thank you very much for that update today. Joining us on the line, Sarah Kimani. Of course, that hashtag is My Dress, My Choice. This after, of course, a woman was assaulted for wearing a mini dress last week in that country. Sarah will keep us updated how that story develops on this very platform, SABC News. Let's have a look at your tweets. Remember, you can send it to us at SABC Newsroom on Twitter. We love your interactions. We put it on the board. If it's nice pictures, we put it up. It adds a lot to what we do. It's fresh. It says, this is so painful and disheartening. God bless whoever gave her that towel to cover herself. Talking about my dress, my choice. Al Manuel says, guys talking about our African culture on that my dress, my choice are just ignorant and stupid. Our ancestors only had shukas and hides. Thank you, Al Manuel. That is a very good observation. African women are finally wise, taking their own decisions and giving men the middle finger, says the cancel, Masera. That's about now. Words for Wings says, Kenya, I love your country, which I have visited. I love your people who were so good to me. But strike a woman. Hashtag my dress, my choice. That's about an hour ago. Wear decently, because this my dress is not an excuse for you to walk naked. You are ignorant, unfortunately. Moving on, let's see this picture. My dress, my choice. Women are allowed to dress whatever and wear whatever they want to in this life. So are men. Before I became a woman, I was a human being. My dress, my choice. Women and men march in Nairobi. This is a pic from that march. That was put up last night, yesterday at some point. And the fact is simple. You can wear what you want. This is the 21st century. You can't impose your rights and infringe on other people. If they want to just cover their bare essentials, so be it. As long as it's covered, they say. Let's take a look now at what's happening on our Facebook page here on Newsroom. Today, you'll see that the Sport and Arts and Culture Ministries have appealed to South Africans to come out in large numbers and support the Nelson Mandela Sport and Cultural Day. That'll take place this Saturday. You'll also see that a senior UN official has warned the Security Council that the construction of the Gaza Strip is doomed to fail without a long-term ceasefire between Israel and the Palestinians. And then back home, it's D-Day today for 20 EFF MPs who've been found guilty of misconduct, as Parliament's Powers and Privileges Committee will seek final approval from the National Assembly to implement sanctions against MPs who disrupted President Jacob Zuma's question time on the 23rd of August. All of those stories and a whole lot more on our Facebook page. You can also visit sabc.co.za/news for all the latest updates. And I can tell you it's going to be action in Parliament. It starts in about 20 minutes' time. Lekanyo said he's not sure if that's where they're going to start. Watch this channel. We'll keep you updated how that story develops. Should be very interesting today. Time for us to take another break. This is Newsroom on SABC News.
Slow motion playback on our new waterproof smartphone. Don't settle for good, demand great. The new Sony Xperia Z3 series.
Get the used Sony Xperia Z3 on a My MTN Choice 100 contract for only $4.99 and get a free 12-month music streaming subscription.
waterproof smartphone takes superior photos even in low light. Has PlayStation 4 remote play and up to 2 days battery life. Don't settle for good. Demand great. The new Sony Xperia Z3 series.
Well, hello and welcome back. You with Newsroom on SABC News. Let's just take a look at those top stories this morning. Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa will meet the leaders of political parties represented in Parliament in Cape Town today. They are expected to discuss the chaos that erupted in the National Assembly last week when Speaker Baleka Mbete tried to stop the opposition from delaying the adoption of a report absolving President Jacob Zuma of responsibility in the Nkandla saga. Now, today's meeting with the Deputy President is scheduled to take place shortly before the House sits to consider the fate of the 20 EFF MPs found guilty of misconduct. The Powers and Privileges Committee found them guilty after they interrupted President Zuma's response to Nkandla in August. The committee will seek final approval from the National Assembly to implement sanctions against the MPs. The proposed sanctions range from losing a month's salary to a suspension from Parliament for a period of 30 days. And Eskom says its system will remain tight over the evening peaks for the next few days. This due to continuing wet and cloudy weather conditions forecast for the next few days, as well as the loss of additional units at some power stations as a result of technical faults. Eskom says the Majuba power station is facing wet coal challenges, with some of the coal handling taking place out in the open. Eskom implemented load shedding earlier this month after one of its silos at the power station collapsed. Remember, all those top stories and more are available on our Newsroom Facebook page. You can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Eben, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Katrina. Now, the Blue Scorpions and police are raiding the property of a Northern Cape man right now for illegally stopping the flow of the Vaal River and unlawfully abstracting water for his small-scale mining activities there. The Windsorten man is allegedly operating 8 mines without permits from the Department of Mineral Resources on that property. 6 pumps are currently taking water from the river. This has had devastating results for the environment and has interfered with the supply of water for the residents of Kimberley, Windsorten and Bloemhof there. Now, our reporter Margaret Motibi joins us from Windsorten, where the raid is currently underway. Good morning, Margaret. Just set the scene for us, please.
Good morning, Eben. We're currently in Windsorten in the Northern Cape. The reason why we're here is because we are at a property of a gentleman who's been running a mining company on this property. He has 8 different mines on the property. And what this man has done is that he has stopped the flow of the Vaal River to selfishly mine the land where the river is flowing. In front of me, there are his workers that are currently working at the mine, that are currently trying to get diamonds from this piece of land. Where we are standing right now with the Deputy Minister, Pamela Chwete, is where the river used to flow. But what has happened in the past 3 years is that he's been able to insert 6 water pumps into the Vaal River, where he's able to illegally extract water while he's also illegally mining here. We are here with the Blue Scorpions, we are here with the Green Scorpions, we're also here with police who are going to be raiding his property this morning to stop him from doing what he has been doing. We understand from the Blue Scorpions that they have engaged with the property owner in the past couple of years to tell him and make him aware that whatever it is that he's busy with, it's illegal, it's unacceptable. We're speaking now to Ms. Pamela Chwete, who's the Deputy Minister of the Department of Water and Sanitation. What we want to find out from her is that why is it important that on this particular month that you decided to do a raid of this kind? I'll hold the mic.
Yeah, this month, the water and sanitation, we have compliance, monitoring and enforcement month. And this is a start. We're in Kimberley. From here, we're going to go to KZN, Gauteng and Limpopo. The reason why we're doing this, there are people that are using water illegally and polluting water, and they don't pay for that water. We therefore, here in Kimberley, where I am right now, it's the Vaal River, and this guy has obstructed the whole river. The Vaal River is blocking the river so that other people don't get the river. We say no to those people, transgressors that are using water illegally and polluting water.
And we also want to find out from you, in terms of legal recourse, what does he face? Is the man going to get just the fine? Does he face rather a prison term? How does it all work?
Myself and the minister, let me start by saying we have constitutional and political mandate to make sure that people, they get water, especially in the rural areas. We are saying no to the people like this. And we issued warrant of arrest. The first offender, it's 5 years, and the second offender is going to be 10 years. We are very serious about this, and he is going to be in trouble. We've already issued the warrant of arrest.
We want to find out, after you cut off the pumps this morning, that we understand that's what will happen this morning. What's going to happen in terms of rehabilitating the area and making sure that the Vaal River goes back to its natural flow?
Definitely, we have to do that immediately. As you see, the wall, he has blocked the whole river. We have to give him ultimatum to remove this wall himself, and so that we get the flow of the river. And because this is a natural resource, it's our river, it's everybody's natural resource. So he is not paying for this. It's clear that he's not paying. He is stealing this water from the river. So we are going to arrest, and we are sure about that. We are Blue Scorpion, and we mean business.
Thank you very much. That was Deputy Minister Ms. Trete. And we understand that what's going to happen this morning is that the rights of this man will be read out to him. He's going the police are going to make him understand what kind of legal recourse he's going to face. And the pubs that are running close to me, they're going to be cut off. The understanding that we have is that they need professionals to cut off the pumps because they are transmitting water through electricity. And what's going to happen after that is that the man will therefore be given rather his chance to find a legal representative. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to Margaret there for that developing story. We'll keep you updated how that story breaks throughout the day. Very interesting. This farmer is going to be arrested for stealing water from us, the people of South Africa. Anyhow, time for us to take a little break. We've got to pay the bills. You're watching Newsroom on SABC News.
SABC, sharing 20 years of inspiration.
Our new waterproof smartphone takes superior photos even in low light. Has PlayStation 4 remote play and up to 2 days battery life. Don't settle for good. Demand great. The new Sony Xperia Z3 series.
SABC, sharing 20 years of inspiration.
Well, welcome back. You're watching Newsroom on SABC News. We end on a good note today. This Friday, 17 medical students and members of the Wit Student Surgical Society will summit the highest freestanding mountain in Africa, Mount Kilimanjaro. The challenge aims to raise funds for the SMILE Foundation, which is a non-governmental organization with a holistic healthcare vision for children with facial deformities. Now, to tell us more, we're joined today by Project Manager Graham Moore and by Charity Coordinator Stephanie van Straten. And, of course, by 8 of the brave students who will set off for this challenge later this week. Guys, welcome to the studio. Wow, so many of you. Graham, I'd like to start with you. As a project manager, where did this idea come from, and kind of what is the process of getting ready for climbing Kilimanjaro?
Thanks, Janine. So at the beginning of the year, I had this idea of kind of a collaboration effort to raise money for the SMILE Foundation. Surgical Society has always been kind of pushing the boundaries of what we can do as medical students and how we can help the community. And I find that Kilimanjaro is the kind of thing that we can inspire as well as raise money for an amazing cause such as the SMILE Foundation.
Definitely a brave thing to do. So tell me, how did you guys kind of start preparing for this?
I was lucky in retrospect now that we started as early as we did, because it's been a lot of training, a lot of preparation, especially being medical students. There's a lot of other obligations that we have. I mean, some of us are writing exams tomorrow as well. So it's been tough, but you know, the preparation's been mostly training and just kind of having everything in order. And yeah, I mean, we're leaving on Friday and we feel quite ready, I think.
And then Stefan, if I can go to you, charity coordinator, why the Smile Foundation?
Okay, so because we are Wits Surgical Society, we'd like to focus our funds on something giving back to the community in a way that students can also further their learning. And so the Smile Foundation is a foundation that focuses on plastics and reconstructive surgery. For example, we watched a surgeon reconstruct an ear the other day on a boy who never had ears. So it's all about raising awareness of facial abnormalities, because of the fact that there's so many kids in this country who do have facial abnormalities and they're just not seen because of the fact that stigma causes them to hide away. So we're encouraging people, by us facing our own fears, we're allowing those kids to come forward and face their fears, no matter how big or how small.
And I understand you've already actually started raising money. Tell us about that.
Indeed. So we've been working very hard this year, and we don't only climb mountains, but we also did a cycle race recently where 19 of our students cycled a race, and we've currently raised over 600,000 Rand for the foundation. And each surgery is approximately 25,000 Rand, and so this means that we've put smiles on many, many faces.
Okay, and then maybe if I can ask you a question. Yes. Graham has said a lot about the training, so tell us, what does that involve?
Well, we started off originally going towards the West Cliff stairs. It's about 200 stairs in that, of where we've been putting our backpacks and that on our backs so that we can hike up in there and try and feel what the conditions are going to be like. We've also then bought hiking shoes so that we can wear them in, because it requires us obviously to not have any blisters when we get to the top. So we've also done a little bit of shopping, going around trying to make sure that we can get everything at the best price, because a lot of us in that aren't hikers, we're all newbies at this. So a lot of us had to get advice from a lot of people about the training and everything like that.
Okay, Graham, if I can come back to you, what is the kind of day-by-day challenge that you're looking at?
So the climb is going to be about 6 days long. It's going to take us 5 days to get to the top, each day probably hiking between, I think, about 10 and 20 Ks. Apparently, I mean, we've just heard from people that have done it before that we've got to take it really slowly. Hopefully we can take a lot of photos and tweets and, send back, some of our experiences back to the ground. And I think at the end of the day, it's just, we've done the work. Now it's just time to have fun and, do it for the kids that we're raising the money for.
Awesome. Great, guys. Unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap up. But good luck, and good luck with your exam tomorrow. I don't want to think about climbing a mountain when I'm writing an exam, Eben.
Yeah, thank you very much, Janine. I can tell these guys it's going to be a lot harder than what they think it's going to be. No picnic going up Kilimanjaro. Anyhow, that's where we wrap it today. On that good note, you can follow these guys, of course, on social media. The show is broadcast live from our studios in Auckland Park, Johannesburg, every weekday morning between 9 and 10 a.m. We repeat at 2 in the afternoon with a rebroadcast 5 a.m. the following morning. We're also live on YouTube right now with the whole show available on demand on our YouTube channel. So if you're in the office, you can watch Newsroom. This is SABC News. You have been watching Newsroom. You know we love it in the morning.
Cultures of Africa, though similar in some ways, are colorful and diverse.
We explore the rich culture, dance and dress of the Tanzanian people of the Mtwara region.
The dance that they're performing is what you will find in the village. And it's not just a paid gig, it's something they do, they enjoy.
Mtwara's late development has left it with a rich reservoir of empirical knowledge of a purer African life.
For whatever the reasons are, it's one of the last areas of the country to develop, and thus traditional arts and traditional culture.
That's Kaleidoscope, Sundays, 5:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Orange Farm is an underdeveloped formal settlement 50 kilometers south of Gauteng. away from the city lights of Johannesburg. It started as an informal settlement in 1988 and later was formally established in 1990. Coming from a community of shack dwellers who struggle daily to put bread on the table, the desire to have education may appear misplaced. The SABC took time to attend the Johannesburg South Career Day and Expo in this community with the objective of being an eye-opener to learners in addressing critical and scarce skills that are desperately needed in the country.
We have highlighted the critical and core skills that we require for the SABC to function effectively and efficiently. So these are the kinds of career choices that you can have, in future, and the kind of careers that will also support in terms of bursary accessibility. So if you want to access funds in the SABC for you to study further, you need to make sure that whatever it is that you're applying for is in line with the skills that we have indicated there.
We look at previously disadvantaged communities because learners in schools that are located in previously disadvantaged communities do not have the facilities and the resources or opportunity to be given proper career guidance. And they are limited in terms of the choices that they can make in their careers. So the SABC is here to share that information. But additional to that, the SABC has a bursary